The coffee spilled on his sleeve, just a small stain. But the pilot's reaction was anything but small. "Watch where you're going," he snapped, grabbing the young flight attendant's arm in front of shocked passengers. His face twisted with contempt as he continued berating her, while she apologized calmly. Several passengers started recording the confrontation on their phones. No one expected what happened next. The captain emerged from the cockpit, phone in hand, his face suddenly serious. "Step aside," he ordered the arrogant pilot. Then, turning to the quiet flight attendant, he made an announcement that left everyone stunned. "Gentlemen, meet your new operations director and your employer. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If stories of quiet dignity and unexpected revelations speak to you, consider subscribing to hear more about the moments when true leadership reveals itself in the most unexpected ways." Terminal 3 at Chicago, O'Hare International, bustled with pre-holiday travel chaos. Harried passengers navigating overstuffed security lines, gate agents managing boarding procedures with practiced efficiency, flight crews traversing the concourse with purposeful strides that parted the civilian crowd through sheer momentum. Meridian Airlines occupied a significant terminal section, their recently refreshed branding, sleek blue and silver with mountain peak motif, displayed prominently throughout their gate areas. The atmosphere carried the particular tension of winter travel disruption, weather advisories creating cascading delays across the Midwest, departure boards regularly updating with schedule changes that triggered collective groans from waiting travelers. Meridian's reputation for operational efficiency was being tested today, their normally smooth procedures stressed by circumstances beyond their control, creating perfect conditions to reveal character under pressure. Laurel Ainsley navigated the employee security checkpoint with practiced ease, her movements suggesting familiarity with airport protocols, despite the Meridian Airlines flight attendant uniform appearing freshly pressed. Mid-30s, with chestnut hair perfectly secured in regulation bun, her appearance combined professional polish with deliberate neutrality. Minimal makeup, simple stud earrings, nothing drawing attention beyond standard corporate presentation. Unlike other crew members who displayed various personality indicators through subtle uniform customizations, distinctive scarves, personalized luggage tags, unique jewelry within regulation boundaries, Laurel's presentation remained exactly to company specification, as though following an orientation manual rather than established personal style. Her interaction with security staff contained neither the casual familiarity of longtime employees nor the hesitance of new hires, instead displaying an unusual balance of precise protocol knowledge and careful observation, suggesting someone simultaneously learning and evaluating the environment rather than simply participating in it. First Officer Beckett Harlow commanded attention at the crew briefing area, his voice carrying across the space with deliberate volume, suggesting authority expectation rather than communication necessity. Early 40s, with the physique of someone who maintains fitness primarily for appearance value, his uniform displayed subtle status signals beyond official insignia. Designer watch visible at cuff, premium materials and personal accessories, grooming suggesting professional services rather than self-maintenance. His interaction with fellow pilots contained the particular dynamic of someone performing expertise rather than simply possessing it. Anecdotes emphasizing his exceptional abilities rather than shared professional experiences. Most significantly, his behavior towards support staff, gate agents, ground crew, catering personnel, demonstrated consistent status reinforcement, instructions delivered with condescension masked as efficiency, requests containing implied threats regarding performance expectations. This behavioral pattern created visible response among veteran staff. Subtle eye rolls when his attention shifted elsewhere, whispered conversations ceasing when he approached, physical positioning adjusting to maintain maximum professional distance. Captain Thaddeus Morgenstern reviewed pre-flight documentation at the gate counter, his attention to detail reflecting 3 decades of commercial aviation experience. Late 50s with silver hair cropped in military precision, his uniform bearing the subtle wear patterns of daily use rather than occasional deployment, Morgenstern presented the archetypal senior captain, methodical, unflappable, conversation limited to operational necessity rather than social engagement. His interaction with gate staff displayed professional respect, transcending hierarchical position, requests framed as collaborative engagement rather than subordinate instruction. When Harlow approached with unnecessary volume regarding minor weight distribution concerns, Morgenstern's response demonstrated practiced management of difficult personality rather than genuine engagement. Minimal acknowledgement, redirection to standard procedure reference, subtle physical positioning, creating conversation conclusion rather than continuation opportunity. This interaction dynamic revealed established pattern rather than isolated incident, suggesting ongoing professional accommodation rather than effective correction. Pre-boarding procedures brought Laurel into first professional contact with Harlow as crew prepared the aircraft cabin. Her movement through narrow galley space with coffee service for flight deck created unintentional proximity when Harlow entered unexpectedly from opposite direction. The resulting collision, while minor, caused coffee spillage on Harlow's uniform sleeve. Small stain, creating minimal visible impact but maximum psychological effect. Harlow's reaction revealed disproportionate response to minor incident. "Are you blind? This is a brand new uniform." The statement contained volume calibrated for maximum attention rather than appropriate communication, creating immediate audience among nearby passengers awaiting priority boarding. Laurel's response demonstrated unusual composure for targeted public criticism. "I apologize for the accident, First Officer Harlow. I have stain remover in my kit if you'd like." This measured reaction, using his formal title while offering practical solution, created visible confusion in Harlow's expression. Momentary hesitation, suggesting unfamiliarity with dignity rather than defensiveness when facing his aggression. Rather than accepting resolution, Harlow escalated through status reinforcement. "Maybe if Meridian hired competent staff instead of diversity hires, I wouldn't need stain remover." This statement, deliberately audible to waiting passengers, created immediate atmospheric tension. Uncomfortable shifting among witnesses, several passengers activating phone cameras, gate agents' expression revealing internal conflict between professional protocol and personal objection. Most significantly, Harlow physically grasped Laurel's arm during this statement, establishing dominance through unauthorized contact rather than merely verbal aggression. This physical boundary violation transformed professional discourtesy into potential policy infraction, creating significant escalation beyond verbal exchange. Laurel's response to physical contact contained unusual composure, suggesting specialized training rather than typical flight attendant experience. Subtle weight shift, breaking grip without creating additional conflict, positioning adjustment, establishing professional distance without retreat indication, expression maintaining neutral assessment rather than emotional reaction. "I understand your frustration with the accident, sir. I'll ensure greater care in the future." Laurel's response contained precisely calibrated professional language, acknowledging emotion without accepting inappropriate behavior, maintaining courtesy without surrendering dignity, creating resolution opportunity without confrontation escalation. This communication approach suggested conflict management training beyond standard customer service protocols, resolution strategies reflecting leadership experience rather than subordinate accommodation. Most revealing, her eye contact during this exchange demonstrated evaluation rather than intimidation, assessment rather than emotional reaction, creating subtle indicator of perspective beyond apparent position. This unusual response quality created first question regarding Laurel beyond visible presentation. What background creates such composed response to clear provocation? What experience enables such precise conflict management? What professional history develops such effective boundary maintenance within hierarchical challenge? The exchange drew significant attention despite its brief duration. Passengers recording interaction on phones, other crew members observing with expressions revealing familiarity with Harlow's behavior pattern. Gate staff exchanging meaningful glances suggesting institutional awareness rather than isolated incident. Most significantly, Captain Morgenstern observed from slight distance, his expression revealing complex response beyond simple disapproval, not merely witnessing inappropriate behavior, but evaluating Laurel's handling of situation with particular attention, suggesting recognition beyond casual observation. When Harlow turned away with dismissive gesture completing his dominance display, Morgenstern approached Laurel with quiet comment, inaudible to surrounding witnesses. Her response limited to professional acknowledgement that revealed nothing to observers while creating additional question regarding potential connection beyond visible interaction. As passenger boarding began, established crew procedures revealed additional context through behavioral patterns. Other flight attendants demonstrated subtle supportive gestures toward Laurel, positioning adjustments, providing situational assistance, task sharing, creating workload balance, nonverbal communication, establishing inclusion despite newcomer status. These interaction patterns suggested rapid assessment based on observed professionalism rather than social connection, professional respect generated through demonstrated capability rather than established relationship. Simultaneously, crew interaction with Harlow revealed consistent avoidance strategies, minimizing direct communication, creating physical distance when possible, implementing information sharing through alternate channels rather than direct engagement. These established patterns indicated ongoing behavioral concerns rather than isolated incident, suggesting institutional accommodation rather than effective correction of problematic conduct. Through the boarding process, Laurel's work performance revealed subtle indicators of capabilities beyond typical flight attendant parameters. Problem-solving approaches suggesting strategic thinking rather than procedural application, passenger interaction demonstrating advanced psychology, understanding rather than script adherence, operational efficiency reflecting systems knowledge beyond compartmentalized training. Most notably, her documentation review included attention to details typically outside service crew responsibility. Weight distribution notices, fuel calculation confirmations, maintenance verification signatures. This unusual focus created additional questions regarding her background and purpose. Why would cabin crew member review operational documentation beyond service requirements? What professional experience creates such comprehensive awareness? What position typically requires such cross-functional knowledge? The aircraft itself seemed to reflect the tensions developing within. Cramped galley spaces amplifying physical proximity challenges, narrow aisles forcing uncomfortable passage negotiations, overhead compartment limitations, creating resource competition beyond simple storage function. Every environmental constraint enhanced interaction significance, minor courtesies becoming meaningful accommodations, small infractions transforming into significant violations, routine procedures elevating to performance evaluations. This environmental pressure created perfect catalyst for character revelation. Physical limitations exposing psychological boundaries, resource constraints revealing priority hierarchies, procedural requirements demonstrating value systems beyond verbal declarations. The Boeing 737 became symbolic microcosm of organizational culture, structure demanding cooperation while design enabling conflict, efficiency requiring collaboration, while configuration permitting obstruction, success demanding teamwork, while hierarchy creating division. The coffee incident established perfect symbolic motif throughout subsequent interactions. The spreading stain on Harlow's sleeve representing visible character revelation, rather than merely uniform disruption. The attempted cleanup demonstrating remediation approach beyond simple stain removal. The persistent mark creating ongoing reminder of behavior consequences beyond momentary action. Throughout boarding procedures, Harlow's periodic sleeve adjustment drew attention to the stain he attempted to ignore, creating perfect visual representation of character flaw he refused to acknowledge. Every glance at the spreading mark reinforced accountability visualization. Not merely uniform imperfection, but behavior consequence. Not simply appearance disruption, but character exposure. Not just cosmetic concern, but reputation impact. This subtle but persistent motif created perfect symbolic through-line connecting initial incident to developing narrative without requiring verbal reminder or explicit reference. As boarding neared completion, Captain Morgenstern received phone notification that created visible reaction despite his typical emotional control, expression shifting from professional neutrality to focused intensity requiring immediate privacy for response. His movement to secluded gate area for conversation created attention from observant crew members, particularly Laurel, whose observation patterns suggested information, gathering beyond casual interest. When Morgenstern returned, his interaction with Harlow contained deliberate formality, transcending standard professional communication. First Officer Harlow, we have a situation requiring immediate attention before departure. This statement, while procedurally appropriate, contained unusual urgency, creating questions that pushed audience forward. What information creates such significant response from typically unflappable captain? Why does his attention focus briefly on Laurel despite addressing Harlow? Most significantly, what connection exists between coffee incident, captain's communication, and Laurel's unusual composure that suggests narrative beyond visible interaction? Captain Morgenstern led First Officer Harlow to secluded jet bridge area for conversation beyond passenger observation, their movement creating immediate crew attention despite attempted discretion. Through aircraft door, partial visibility revealed Morgenstern's uncharacteristic intensity. Tablet presentation containing information creating visible reaction from Harlow. Conversation requiring physical distance adjustment, suggesting defensive posturing rather than professional exchange. Body language indicating significant status recalibration occurring within established hierarchy. This partially observed interaction created immediate questions without providing resolution context. What information justifies such unusual protocol deviation? Why does transmission require such privacy despite imminent departure? What connection exists between tablet content and Harlow's visible discomfort? Simultaneously, Laurel continued cabin preparation with efficiency suggesting experience beyond apparent position. Movement patterns reflecting optimized workflow knowledge. Task prioritization. Demonstrating operational understanding rather than merely procedural compliance. Interaction with senior crew members indicating collaborative approach rather than hierarchical positioning. Her behavior contains subtle indicators of aircraft familiarity exceeding typical flight attendant parameters. Adjustment of cabin systems reflecting technical knowledge beyond user operation. Documentation review, suggesting comprehension rather than merely verification. Communication with ground staff demonstrating operational understanding rather than simply procedural execution. These behavioral patterns created additional questions regarding Laurel's background while maintaining central mystery about her actual identity and purpose. Lead flight attendant Brielle Whitcomb approached Laurel with operational question, revealing implicit challenge rather than simple inquiry. Standard pre-departure check or modified version. Most new FAs struggle with Section 5 procedures. The question's phrasing established performance expectation beyond procedural verification, creating subtle competence test rather than routine coordination. Laurel's response demonstrated expertise transcending challenge parameters. Standard version completed, with additional verification on emergency equipment rotation schedule. Last maintenance cycle indicated possible replacement needs for positions 3 and 14. This detailed response revealed system knowledge beyond expected parameters, creating visible reassessment in Brielle's expression. Professional challenge, replaced by operational respect. Testing intention transformed to collaborative engagement. Hierarchical positioning shifting to expertise acknowledgement. This interaction modification created immediate atmosphere adjustment among observing crew members. Subtle communication pattern changes indicating revised assessment. Task allocation adjustments, suggesting capability recognition. Interpersonal dynamics, transforming through demonstrated competence rather than verbal declaration. These behavioral shifts established provisional acceptance beyond initial skepticism, creating functional integration through performance demonstration rather than credential verification. The interaction resolved immediate mystery regarding crew acceptance while creating new questions about Laurel's unusual knowledge base. What experience creates such comprehensive operational familiarity? What position typically requires such extensive system understanding? What career path develops such detailed procedural mastery across multiple transportation domains? When Captain Morgenstern and First Officer Harlow returned from private consultation, their movement patterns revealed significant dynamic shift. Morgenstern's positioning establishing authority rather than collaboration. Harlow's body language displaying defensive compliance rather than aggressive confidence. Upon reaching aircraft door threshold, Morgenstern implemented unprecedented procedural deviation. First Officer Harlow, please remain in the terminal during pre-flight preparation. We need to address an urgent personnel matter. This instruction, delivered with calm authority that permitted no discussion, created immediate atmospheric tension transcending standard operational adjustment. Crew members exchanging concerned glances, lead flight attendant approaching for clarification, Harlow's expression revealing confusion, transforming to alarm. Harlow's response demonstrated characteristic authority challenged despite diminished position. With all due respect, Captain, regulations require first officer presence during pre-flight procedures. Whatever HR nonsense this is can wait until we reach Denver. This attempted reassertion contained familiar condescension despite circumstantial disadvantage, revealing character consistency regardless of situational adaptation. Morgenstern's reply established unquestionable command without unnecessary elaboration. This isn't an HR matter, Beckett. This comes directly from operational command. Please comply immediately. The statement's precision, using first name rather than title while referencing command authority, created perfect power reinforcement without emotional escalation. Passengers witnessing this exchange displayed varying recognition levels regarding unusual nature, some continuing boarding oblivious to procedural deviation, others noting interaction with concerned observation, several recording subtle conflict with phone cameras suggesting content value recognition. Their collective attention created additional pressure within already tense environment. Public witnessing, transforming private confrontation to performance evaluation. Casual observation, elevating to accountability documentation. Routine procedure, becoming exceptional circumstance through audience recognition. The social dynamics transformed routine departure into performance assessment beyond operational parameters, creating comprehensive evaluation framework transcending technical competence to include interpersonal capability and crisis management effectiveness. As Harlow processed this unprecedented instruction, Captain Morgenstern created additional procedure deviation through direct address to Laurel. Ms. Ainsley, would you please join us on the flight deck for consultation before departure? This request, transforming junior flight attendant from cabin service to cockpit participation, created immediate confusion throughout observing crew. Standard protocols strictly limiting flight deck access during critical phases, regulatory requirements specifying authorized personnel during pre-flight procedures, company policies detailing appropriate communication channels between cabin and cockpit staff. The directive's unusual nature created visible reaction among experienced crew members, their expressions revealing professional concern transcending social curiosity. Most significantly, Laurel's response suggested preparedness rather than surprise despite request's unconventional nature. Of course, Captain. Her acknowledgement contained neither confusion nor hesitation, despite circumstantial irregularity, suggesting preparation for development that should appear unexpected within established role parameters. This behavioral incongruity created additional identity questions while intensifying narrative tension. What background allows such composure during protocol deviation? What preparation creates such readiness for unexpected directive? What actual position justifies such extraordinary procedure modification? The physical aircraft environment seemed to compress around this developing situation. Narrow passageways emphasizing movement restrictions, confined spaces amplifying proximity tensions, limited visibility, creating information asymmetry beyond structural necessity. Every architectural constraint enhanced circumstantial pressure. Passage limitations forcing uncomfortable encounters, space constraints creating unavoidable confrontations, design parameters establishing inescapable accountability through environmental restriction. The Boeing 737's interior became physical manifestation of situational intensity, structure enforcing interaction despite avoidance preference, configuration requiring confrontation beyond comfortable distance, Design, creating compulsory proximity, transcending personal boundary preference. As Laurel approached flight deck entrance, subtle environmental details created. Status visualization transcending verbal explanation. The physical threshold between cabin and cockpit functioned as symbolic boundary between service personnel and command authority. The secured door representing institutional separation between support staff and operational leadership. Harlow's positioning, literally blocked from command center he typically occupies, created perfect visual representation of authority suspension, physical removal from power position he considered rightfully his. Most dramatically, Laurel's movement through this threshold, transitioning from cabin space to command center, created perfect visual representation of status transformation occurring without verbal explanation, boundary crossing symbolizing identity shift beyond established understanding. Throughout this transitional sequence, Laurel's personal accessories revealed subtle status indicators previously concealed by service role. Document portfolio containing executive leather quality rather than standard crew materials. Communication device displaying security features exceeding typical employee equipment. Identification credentials suggesting authorization levels beyond standard operational requirements. These visual details created progressive disclosure without explicit explanation, establishing identity indicators through environmental observation rather than narrative declaration. The coffee stain on Harlow's sleeve had spread slightly during preceding interactions, the darkening mark creating perfect visual metaphor, transcending simple uniform damage. Visible evidence expanding beyond containment attempts. Consequence manifestation growing despite limitation efforts. Accountability visualization developing through natural progression rather than intentional emphasis. His periodic adjustment attempts drew continuous attention to imperfection he attempted to conceal, creating perfect symbolic representation of character flaw, expansion beyond control efforts, reputation damage exceeding repair attempts, credibility deterioration, transcending restoration effort, integrity compromise developing beyond remediation capability. The persistent stain created ongoing accountability visualization without requiring verbal reminder. Physical manifestation maintaining narrative connection through visual presence rather than explicit reference. Inside cockpit environment, Captain Morgenstern's interaction with Laurel revealed relationship dynamic transcending standard crew hierarchy. Their communication contained established familiarity, suggesting previous interaction beyond current assignment. Conversational shorthand indicating shared understanding rather than new connection. Mutual respect, demonstrating professional recognition rather than positional deference. Most significantly, Morgenstern's tablet presentation to Laurel, displaying content requiring security measures beyond standard operational information, created visible knowledge transfer suggesting briefing rather than merely information sharing, preparation rather than simply notification, collaborative planning rather than hierarchical instruction. The board finalized everything this morning, Morgenstern explained. Statement containing deliberate ambiguity, maintaining mystery while providing partial disclosure. They wanted immediate implementation given recent incidents. This contextual reference created connection between current situation and larger institutional framework without providing specific explanation, establishing narrative progression while maintaining audience engagement through controlled information release. Laurel's response: I had hoped for less dramatic introduction, but perhaps this creates necessary clarity, revealed additional identity layer while maintaining central mystery, confirming intentional presence beyond coincidental encounter while preserving specific purpose ambiguity. Outside cockpit entrance, remaining crew members responded to unusual protocol deviation with varied reactions revealing distinct personality approaches beyond professional commonality. Brielle maintaining operational focus despite procedural irregularity, ground staff continuing preparation regardless of command disruption, junior flight attendants exchanging speculation beyond observation restraint. Most notably, several passengers continued recording unusual activity despite boarding completion, their documentation creating potential accountability beyond immediate circumstantial resolution. This ongoing observation established comprehensive witnessing framework transcending organizational boundaries. Not merely internal oversight, but external documentation. Not simply colleague assessment, but public evaluation. Not just professional review, but social judgment extending beyond institutional parameters. When Laurel and Captain Morgenstern exited cockpit area, their emergence created immediate attention throughout forward cabin section. Crew members pausing service preparation. Boarding passengers noting unusual activity pattern. Harlow's expression revealing escalating concern without understanding resolution. The physical positioning during this re-emergence contained significant status visualization. Captain and Laurel emerging together from command space, unified presentation suggesting collaborative authority rather than hierarchical separation. Shared purpose transcending typical operational boundaries. This visual representation created perfect status indication without requiring verbal explanation, establishing authority realignment through environmental positioning rather than explicit declaration. Most dramatically, Captain Morgenstern's communication approach created unprecedented public accountability rather than private resolution. "May I have everyone's attention, please?" This request, implemented during boarding process rather than standard announcement timing, established exceptional circumstance justifying procedural deviation. The resulting attention, passengers pausing movement, crew suspending activities, complete environmental focus, created perfect audience for subsequent revelation, establishing comprehensive witnessing, ensuring accountability beyond private acknowledgement. The cabin atmosphere transformed through this attention request. Ambient conversation ceasing completely. Electronic devices lowering for direct observation. Collective focus creating unusual acoustic clarity within typically chaotic environment. This atmospheric shift created perfect tension amplification beyond simple interest indication. Environmental stillness emphasizing announcement, significance. Collective silence amplifying communication importance. Comprehensive attention establishing declaration and consequence beyond routine announcement. The ambient pressure seemed to increase through this focused stillness. Air circulation becoming more noticeable, structural creaks more apparent, electronic systems more audible through absence of human sound overlay. Every environmental detail, enhanced announcement anticipation beyond typical communication expectation. "I need to address an important personnel announcement," Morgenstern continued, establishing institutional framework rather than personal commentary. Meridian Airlines has recently completed executive restructuring at operational leadership level. Those changes take effect immediately. This contextual establishment created perfect narrative foundation without revealing specific resolution, maintaining audience engagement through anticipation building rather than immediate disclosure. The announcement created visible reaction from experienced crew members, recognition developing regarding connection between executive changes and current situation. Understanding forming about unusual protocols implemented during boarding process, realization emerging about Laurel's presence beyond typical role assignment. Harlow's expression during this announcement revealed progressive comprehension development, initial confusion regarding relevance to current situation, transitioning to growing concern about potential personal implications, culminating in recognition that significantly exceeded standard operational adjustment. This visible realization progression created perfect tension escalation without requiring verbal articulation, establishing stakes elevation through reaction observation rather than explicit explanation. "I'd like to introduce Laurel Ainsley," Captain Morgenstern continued, gesture indicating Laurel with formal acknowledgement transcending typical crew introduction. "Ms. Ainsley is Meridian's new operations director, appointed by the board to address our ongoing service and culture challenges." This position identification created immediate status recalibration throughout observing environment. Crew members displaying varying recognition levels regarding position significance, passengers perceiving authority, acknowledgement without understanding specific implications, Harlow's expression revealing complete comprehension regarding professional consequences beyond current interaction. Most significantly, Morgenstern's continuing introduction created perfect revelation culmination. As of this morning, Ms. Ainsley has direct oversight of all flight operations, crew management, and operational standards enforcement. This responsibility identification established comprehensive authority transformation. Service staff member revealed as command leadership. Subordinate position transformed to supervisory authority. Operational participant elevated to institutional leadership. The revelation created perfect power inversion without requiring additional explanation, establishing complete understanding through positional clarification rather than elaborate disclosure. Harlow's reaction to this revelation created perfect tension-beat-ending scene, physical posture collapsing from confident assertion to defensive uncertainty, expression transitioning from dismissive superiority to recognition alarm, status performance disintegrating through authentic authority confrontation. His attempted response, beginning without completing coherent statement, voice failing through psychological impact rather than physical limitation, created immediate questions driving narrative forward. How will newly revealed authority address previous mistreatment? What consequences emerge when performance power confronts authentic authority? Most significantly, what operational transformation occurs when toxic behavior faces institutional accountability rather than individual accommodation? First Officer Harlow. Laurel addressed him directly, her voice maintaining professional modulation, despite contextual transformation. I believe we have several matters requiring immediate discussion regarding professional standards and crew interaction protocols. This statement, delivered without emotional emphasis despite justifiable vindication opportunity, established perfect authority transition. Formal address replacing previous condescension, professional focus, superseding personal confrontation, institutional standards replacing individual preference. The communication approach demonstrated leadership quality transcending circumstantial victory, professional integrity exceeding retribution opportunity. The surrounding environment reflected comprehensive status recalibration, crew members displaying subtle satisfaction without unprofessional celebration, passengers observing with interested attention, indicating recognition of significant development. Without understanding complete context, Captain Morgenstern's expression revealing professional approval rather than emotional satisfaction. This atmospheric transformation created perfect accountability visualization, not merely individual correction but institutional standard reinforcement, not simply personal consequence but systemic value demonstration, not just isolated incident response but organizational culture reinforcement. Rather than implementing public humiliation matching previous treatment, Laurel established resolution approach, emphasizing professional standards rather than personal satisfaction. We'll continue this conversation privately after flight completion. For now, let's ensure our passengers receive the exceptional service Meridian aspires to provide. This redirection demonstrated leadership quality transcending power, exercise opportunity, prioritizing operational excellence over personal vindication, focusing organizational purpose rather than individual correction, demonstrating value hierarchy, placing service above status enforcement. Most significantly, Laurel's guidance created perfect contrast with Harlow's previous approach, collaborative direction rather than hierarchical demand, purpose-focused instruction rather than status-based command, professional standard reinforcement rather than personal authority demonstration. The contrast established character distinction beyond positional authority, leadership quality transcending title designation, professional integrity exceeding situational advantage, personal excellence rather than merely positional power. As operational focus returned to departure preparation, Captain Morgenstern implemented perfect symbolic acknowledgement, transcending verbal affirmation. Formal handshake with Laurel, establishing professional recognition beyond corporate announcement. Gesture containing respect, demonstration rather than merely protocol observation. Interaction quality, suggesting genuine appreciation rather than obligatory acknowledgement. This ceremonial moment created perfect visual representation of institutional validation. Authority figure providing formal recognition, established leadership acknowledging new direction, respected professional validating appointment through personal endorsement. The gesture's impact registered throughout observing environment. Crew members noting significance beyond routine interaction, passengers recognizing meaningful exchange despite lacking specific context, Harlow observing with expression, revealing comprehensive understanding regarding professional implications beyond current interaction. This symbolic moment created perfect institutional acknowledgement, not merely individual recognition, but systemic validation, not simply personal acceptance, but organizational endorsement, not just positional acknowledgement, but professional appreciation. Following formal introduction, Laurel transitioned immediately to operational leadership, with natural authority suggesting extensive experience rather than new position adjustment. Captain Morgenstern, I'd like to review our weather diversion contingencies before departure, given the developing system over the Rockies. This professional focus demonstrated leadership quality beyond circumstantial vindication, immediate attention to operational excellence rather than personal advantage exercise, prioritizing passenger service above interpersonal dynamics, demonstrating commitment to institutional purpose transcending individual circumstances. The technical discussion that followed revealed comprehensive operational knowledge beyond typical management familiarity, detailed understanding of aircraft capabilities, sophisticated comprehension of meteorological implications, strategic approach to resource optimization, suggesting extensive operational experience rather than merely administrative oversight. This knowledge demonstration created additional context regarding Laurel's background while maintaining certain mystery aspects, explaining operational capability without revealing complete professional history, establishing expertise without detailing specific experience development, demonstrating qualification without explaining comprehensive background. As departure preparation resumed, crew interaction patterns revealed significant recalibration beyond specific confrontation resolution. Flight attendants approached Laurel with professional questions containing respect, quality transcending obligatory deference, seeking operational guidance rather than merely following instructions, requesting professional input rather than simply acknowledging authority, engaging collaborative interaction rather than implementing hierarchical compliance. These behavioral patterns demonstrated genuine respect, development based on observed capability rather than merely positional acknowledgement, professional appreciation emerging through demonstrated excellence rather than simply title recognition. Simultaneously, crew interaction with Harlow revealed complete status inversion beyond specific authority adjustment, minimal engagement beyond operational necessity, communication limited to required coordination rather than social accommodation, professional distance establishing functional separation rather than collaborative inclusion. This behavioral transformation created perfect accountability manifestation, not through directive enforcement, but natural consequence development, not via authority declaration, but organic status realignment, not through imposed punishment, but natural community adjustment. When operational necessity required Laurel and Harlow's interaction regarding departure coordination, their exchange demonstrated perfect professional standard implementation beyond personal history consideration. First Officer Harlow, please ensure complete weight distributions verification before final clearance request. This instruction, delivered with precise professional courtesy despite previous mistreatment, established leadership standard transcending circumstantial advantage, maintaining operational excellence focus despite interpersonal conflict opportunity, prioritizing professional responsibility above personal satisfaction, demonstrating character quality beyond positional authority. Harlow's response revealed significant behavioral adaptation beyond mandatory compliance. Yes, Director Ainsley, verification in progress with ground crew coordination. This communication adjustment demonstrated comprehensive understanding regarding professional expectation rather than merely authority recognition, complete recalibration beyond simple hierarchical acknowledgement, fundamental approach transformation rather than merely superficial compliance. The interaction quality established perfect accountability implementation, not through punishment enforcement, but standard elevation, not via humiliation replication, but excellence demonstration, not through vengeance pursuit, but professional integrity establishment. As final departure preparation concluded, Captain Morgenstern implemented perfect leadership transition through procedural adjustment normally reserved for training flights. Director Ainsley, would you care to observe from the flight deck during departure? This invitation, while operationally appropriate given her position, contained recognition beyond standard protocol acknowledgement, professional inclusion rather than merely positional accommodation, expertise acknowledgement rather than simply authority recognition, collaborative engagement rather than hierarchical deference. The invitation quality created perfect professional validation. Established authority figure, acknowledging new leadership through meaningful inclusion rather than merely formal acknowledgement. Laurel's response maintained perfect professional balance between authority exercise and operational respect. I'd appreciate that, Captain, though I'll return to cabin service once we reach cruising altitude. Today's flight is fully booked, and our passengers deserve complete attention. This statement demonstrated leadership quality transcending authority exercise, prioritizing service excellence above positional privilege, focusing organizational purpose beyond individual advantage, demonstrating value, hierarchy placing passenger experience above personal convenience. The approach created perfect leadership distinction. Authority exercised through service commitment rather than privilege utilization, position leverage for excellence delivery rather than personal advantage, leadership demonstrated through example rather than merely direction. When Laurel entered flight deck for departure observation, her positioning created perfect visual representation of authority transition without requiring verbal explanation. Physically occupying observation seat, typically reserved for check airmen and evaluators. Positioning establishing oversight capability beyond participation engagement. Presence creating accountability through observation rather than merely authority through direction. This physical arrangement established perfect power visualization. Leadership through presence rather than merely command through instruction. Authority through observation rather than simply control through direction. Accountability through witnessing rather than merely enforcement through intervention. Throughout departure sequence, Laurel's observation quality revealed professional expertise beyond administrative familiarity. Attention, focusing on specific operational elements, suggesting piloting knowledge, note-taking, containing technical terminology indicating aviation background, question patterns demonstrating sophisticated understanding rather than general comprehension. This behavioral pattern created additional context regarding background while maintaining certain mystery aspects, suggesting flight experience without confirming specific qualification, indicating operational familiarity without detailing complete history, demonstrating technical knowledge without explaining comprehensive background development. Most significantly, Laurel's interaction approach during departure observation demonstrated fundamental leadership, quality transcending positional authority, questions presented as collaborative inquiry rather than performance evaluation, observations offered as professional contribution rather than critical assessment, presence establishing supportive resource rather than judging authority. This interaction quality created perfect leadership distinction from Harlow's previous approach. Authority exercised through collaborative engagement rather than hierarchical enforcement, expertise demonstrated through knowledge sharing rather than superiority declaration, position utilized for team enhancement rather than personal elevation. The contrast between these leadership approaches created perfect character distinction beyond circumstantial positioning, one exercising authority through service orientation rather than dominance demonstration, one establishing influence through excellence delivery rather than intimidation implementation, one creating respect through professional integrity rather than hierarchical enforcement. This distinction established moral framework, transcending simple power reversal. Not merely position inversion, but leadership quality demonstration, not simply authority transfer, but excellence manifestation, not just hierarchical adjustment, but value illustration. As Flight 1247 established cruising altitude, visible transformation had occurred throughout aircraft environment, transcending specific confrontation resolution. Cabin crew operations reflected enhanced efficiency beyond standard service delivery. Communication patterns demonstrating increased precision, task coordination showing optimized effectiveness, professional engagement revealing elevated performance standards. This operational improvement created tangible demonstration of leadership impact beyond personality adjustment, systemic enhancement rather than merely individual correction, organizational elevation rather than simply personal consequence, collective excellence rather than just isolated accountability. Most significantly, passenger experience visibly improved through this operational enhancement. Service delivery reflecting genuine engagement rather than obligatory performance, problem resolution demonstrating creative solution rather than standard procedure application, overall atmosphere establishing exceptional journey rather than merely adequate transportation. This experience quality created perfect leadership impact visualization, not merely internal adjustment, but customer-facing enhancement, not simply procedural modification, but experience transformation, not just operational change, but purpose fulfillment. True to her commitment, Laurel returned to cabin service once cruising altitude established steady flight phase. This role continuation created perfect leadership demonstration, transcending authority exercise, commitment fulfillment, despite status change, service provision despite position elevation, responsibility completion despite circumstantial transformation. Her approach created powerful example contrasting with typical authority behavior. Positional advancement leveraged for service excellence rather than personal privilege. Leadership role utilized for organizational enhancement rather than individual advantage. Authority position demonstrating value, implementation, rather than merely status enjoyment. Throughout continued service delivery, Laurel's interaction with other flight attendants transformed from parallel work to subtle mentorship. Operational suggestions offered as collaborative enhancement rather than directive correction. Efficiency improvements demonstrated through example rather than instruction. Service excellence established through personal performance rather than verbal direction. This leadership approach created perfect development opportunity beyond specific flight improvement. Skill enhancement rather than merely task completion. Professional growth rather than simply operational execution. Excellence cultivation rather than just adequate performance. Mid-flight interaction between Laurel and Harlow demonstrated perfect accountability, implementation beyond punitive consequence. When operational coordination required their communication regarding turbulence advisory, their exchange established professional standard transcending personal history. First Officer Harlow, could you please provide estimated duration for upcoming turbulence so we can adjust service timing accordingly? This request, delivered with perfect courtesy despite previous mistreatment, demonstrated professional integrity beyond circumstantial advantage, maintaining service focus despite power reversal opportunity, prioritizing passenger experience above personal vindication, establishing excellence standard through personal. Example rather than authority enforcement. Harlow's response: approximately 12 minutes of moderate turbulence expected, Director Ainsley. I'll provide updates if forecasts change. Revealed significant behavioral transformation beyond mandatory compliance. His communication contained professional courtesy, absent from previous interaction. Operational focus replacing status performance. Collaborative approach superseding hierarchical positioning. This behavioral adjustment demonstrated accountability impact beyond punitive enforcement. Standard elevation through leadership example rather than consequence fear. Professional enhancement through excellence demonstration rather than punishment avoidance. Value implementation through integrity observation rather than penalty concern. Beyond individual behavior adjustment, visible organizational enhancement emerged through Laurel's leadership impact. Crew coordination improved through subtle guidance rather than directive enforcement. Communication protocols optimizing through demonstrated efficiency. Task allocation enhancing through collaborative suggestion. Operational effectiveness increasing through supportive facilitation. This systemic improvement created tangible demonstration of leadership quality beyond authority exercise. Organizational enhancement through example rather than mandate. Collective elevation through support rather than demand. Excellence cultivation through facilitation rather than command. Most significantly, this improvement methodology created sustainable development beyond temporary compliance, skill enhancement rather than merely behavior modification, capability building rather than simply requirement fulfillment, professional growth rather than just procedural adherence. The approach established perfect leadership distinction, contrasting with Harlow's previous methodology. Excellence cultivation through support, rather than compliance enforcement through intimidation. Capability development through encouragement, rather than performance demand through criticism. Professional growth through mentorship, rather than behavior control through dominance. As Flight 1247 approached Denver International Airport, comprehensive transformation had occurred throughout aircraft environment, transcending specific personnel dynamics. Operational excellence manifested through enhanced coordination beyond standard procedure execution. Descent, preparation, implementing optimal efficiency. Service conclusion, demonstrating exceptional organization. Arrival preparation, reflecting professional precision beyond typical performance standards. This operational quality created tangible manifestation of leadership impact. Excellence delivery rather than merely adequate service. Exceptional experience rather than simply sufficient transportation. Outstanding performance rather than just acceptable execution. Passenger response reflected this quality enhancement beyond standard satisfaction metrics, gratitude expressions, exceeding typical acknowledgement, appreciation communications, suggesting exceptional experience recognition, feedback indicating perception of service transcending normal expectations. This customer response created perfect demonstration of leadership impact beyond internal dynamics. External validation, transcending organizational assessment, customer appreciation, exceeding operational evaluation, public acknowledgement, surpassing institutional recognition. Upon successful landing completion, Captain Morgenstern implemented perfect symbolic acknowledgement, transcending standard arrival procedure. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Meridian Airlines, I'd like to extend special appreciation to our Operations Director, Laurel Ainsley, who joined our crew today to experience our service firsthand. Her leadership represents Meridian's renewed commitment to exceptional customer experience and professional excellence. This public acknowledgement created perfect institutional validation, not merely individual recognition, but company endorsement, not simply personal appreciation, but organizational commitment, not just positional acknowledgement, but value declaration. The announcement created visible passenger response beyond routine arrival, disengagement. Attention focusing on identified leadership, appreciation directed toward acknowledged excellence source, recognition establishing connection between experienced quality and responsible leadership. This customer engagement created perfect external validation. Public acknowledgement, transcending internal recognition, customer appreciation, exceeding organizational validation, general public confirming quality perception beyond company assessment. Following passenger deplaning completion, Laurel and Captain Morgenstern engaged in brief professional assessment, demonstrating collaborative leadership beyond hierarchical evaluation. What did you observe today that requires immediate attention? Morgenstern inquired, question reflecting genuine engagement rather than perfunctory inquiry. This interaction quality established perfect leadership collaboration, senior authority engaging new leadership with respectful consideration, experienced commander seeking fresh perspective with genuine interest, established leader valuing additional viewpoint with authentic appreciation. Laurel's response demonstrated strategic focus beyond specific incident resolution. The crew performs exceptionally well despite significant systematic challenges. Their adaptation to operational constraints shows remarkable creativity and commitment. This assessment established leadership quality transcending personal vindication, organizational evaluation rather than individual focus, systemic analysis rather than specific incident emphasis, comprehensive perspective rather than limited viewpoint. The approach demonstrated perfect leadership distinction, strategics, vision beyond tactical response, organizational perspective exceeding situational focus, comprehensive understanding transcending limited assessment. As operational debrief concluded, Laurel transitioned from evaluation to implementation with strategic approach, demonstrating leadership depth beyond reactive management. I've identified 3 immediate improvement opportunities that will enhance both operational efficiency and service quality. I'd like to implement them across the Denver hub before national rollout. This action orientation created perfect leadership distinction beyond assessment capability, solution development rather than merely problem identification, implementation planning, exceeding evaluation completion, improvement initiation, transcending situation assessment. Captain Morgenstern's response: the Denver teams will welcome that approach. They've been requesting system improvements for months. Created perfect leadership validation beyond positional acknowledgement. This supportive engagement demonstrated genuine respect, transcending hierarchical deference, authentic appreciation rather than obligatory acknowledgement, legitimate support exceeding required compliance, genuine collaboration transcending mandatory cooperation. The interaction quality established perfect organizational health indicator. Leadership collaboration focusing on improvement rather than political positioning. Professional engagement prioritizing excellence above individual advancement. Collective commitment to enhancement transcending personal agenda pursuit. As Laurel prepared for executive meeting following flight experience, her interaction with Harlow established perfect professional standard transcending circumstantial advantage. First Officer Harlow, I'd appreciate your input during tomorrow's operational review. Your experience with our current systems could provide valuable perspective for improvement implementation. This inclusion, offering professional opportunity despite previous mistreatment, demonstrated leadership quality beyond retribution temptation. Organizational improvement prioritized above personal vindication. Collective excellence valued above individual consequence. Professional development superseding to punitive response. Harlow's reaction revealed genuine transformation beyond superficial compliance. Surprise indicating expectation of continued consequence rather than professional inclusion. Appreciation suggesting recognition of undeserved opportunity. Commitment reflecting understanding of accountability through contribution rather than merely punishment avoidance. This interaction created perfect redemption opportunity beyond simple forgiveness. Professional growth through constructive engagement rather than merely punitive completion. Character development through positive opportunity rather than simply negative consequence. Value implementation through collaborative inclusion rather than just disciplinary exclusion. Most significantly, Harlow's uniform sleeve now displayed clean appearance where coffee stain previously marred professional presentation. Subtle evidence of personal restoration, effort transcending external requirement, visible demonstration of internal transformation beyond public observation. Physical representation of character adjustment, exceeding mandatory compliance. The clean uniform created perfect symbolic resolution of established motif. Imperfection, remediation through personal effort rather than external enforcement. Appearance restoration through genuine commitment rather than superficial compliance. Character improvement through authentic development rather than merely compulsory correction. The final interaction between Laurel and ground operations team created perfect visual representation of leadership philosophy, transcending specific incident resolution. Rather than proceeding directly to executive offices reflecting her positional authority, Laurel engaged frontline staff with genuine interest transcending obligatory acknowledgement. Questions reflecting authentic curiosity about operational challenges. Attention demonstrating legitimate concern for implementation difficulties. Engagement establishing genuine connection beyond hierarchical interaction. This approach created perfect leadership visualization. Authority exercised through service orientation rather than dominance demonstration. Position leverage for organizational understanding rather than personal advantage. Leadership implemented through connection development rather than merely direction provision. Most significantly, staff response revealed immediate impact beyond momentary impression. Engagement, reflecting genuine appreciation for authentic interest. Communication, demonstrating unusual openness regarding operational challenges. Interaction, establishing unusual trust, considering hierarchical difference. This relationship quality created perfect leadership distinction. Visualization, connection through authentic engagement rather than merely positional authority, influence through genuine interest rather than simply hierarchical power, impact through authentic concern rather than just official position. As Laurel departed operational area toward executive offices, her movement created perfect symbolic representation of effective leadership approach, transitioning between frontline engagement and strategic implementation, connecting operational reality with executive direction, bridging implementation experience and strategic planning. This physical movement visualized perfect leadership philosophy, not isolated in executive offices disconnected from operational reality, not exclusively engaged in frontline activities without strategic perspective, but effectively connecting both domains through authentic engagement and strategic understanding, creating comprehensive leadership impact through complete organizational integration. Terminal 3 at Denver International Airport bustled with arrival activity, passengers navigating deplaning procedures with practiced efficiency, ground staff managing connection coordination with professional focus, crew members traversing the concourse with purposeful strides that reflected operational completion rather than process initiation. Meridian Airlines occupied a significant terminal section, their recently refreshed branding, sleek blue and silver with mountain peak motif, displayed prominently throughout their gate areas. The atmosphere carried the particular energy of journey completion, arrival satisfaction replacing departure anxiety, destination achievement superseding process concern, accomplishment recognition exceeding procedural focus. Meridian's reputation for operational efficiency was visibly manifest today. Their smooth arrival procedures demonstrating organizational capability beyond individual contribution, creating tangible evidence of systemic health transcending personnel performance.